This happened last summer when I was 34 years old. I had just returned to my small hometown to help care for my dad after he got out of the hospital. He needed help, and I thought being around the animals would be comforting. At least that's what I hoped. Walking through the farm brought back memories, most of them good, but some felt unsettling. On my first day back home, I could see the fields where my father kept horses. They looked overgrown, unlike I remembered. I noticed Bella, our dark mare. She used to be so full of life, but now she seemed off. Each evening, Bella started to trot back to the barn alone. That had never happened before. My heart sank a little. I thought it was just a fluke, something weird I hadn't noticed. I really wanted to focus on my dad, so I tried to brush it off. But as the days passed, I felt more uneasy. Every night, there was Bella making her lonely return. It gnawed at me. I had seen plenty of odd animal behavior, so maybe I was just overthinking. Then I spotted strange hoof prints near the barn. They looked wrong. They didn't match Bella's feet. I felt a deep, unsettling shiver as I stared at them. That evening, the faint whinnies started. I thought it was just my imagination, but the sounds kept tugging at my mind. What was wrong with her? I decided to follow the prints into the woods, even though fear crawled up my spine. I didn't want to turn back. Not yet. Curiosity pulled me forward. The trail led me deep into the woods until I stumbled across an old, rotting barn. It was hidden and I felt a strange pull to it. Still, dread settled in my stomach. The air was thick, suffocating. I opened the creaking door and walked inside. Dust danced in the light that streamed through cracks. Broken tools and old hooks filled the space. But then I noticed something darker, something entirely wrong about it. Suddenly I heard the whinny again, soft and haunting, echoing from the shadows. My heart raced. What was Bella trying to tell me? I felt eyes on me, cold and unseen. I took a deep breath, hoping to steady myself. As I turned back to leave, I saw Bella again, standing just outside the barn's doorway. She was staring right at me. At that moment, my stomach dropped. I thought, what if it's not just a horse? I stepped outside, and all the sounds of the woods vanished. That's when I heard it, a soft, whispering sound. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew deep down it was a warning. My chest tightened. I didn't know what to do. I turned back toward the barn, and the air felt electric. Then something shifted in the shadows. I couldn't see what it was, but I felt it. Something waiting for me, something ancient and hungry. My breath hitched, and I took a step back. I was trapped between the past and what lurked in the dark, and the moment felt too far gone to change course. I stepped back again, willing my legs to move. It was as if the shadows were reaching for me, drawing me closer to them. Bella neighed softly, her voice breaking through the eerie silence. I could still see her, but now all I felt was fear. What was she guarding? The whisper grew louder, wrapping around me like a cold blanket. I squinted into the darkness, half expecting something to lunge at me. My mind raced. I had to leave, but my feet seemed glued to the ground. And in that moment of confusion, the barn door creaked wider, almost inviting me to step forward. Then I saw it. In the far corner, something flickered. A flash of movement caught my eye. I took a step closer, curiosity against my fear. It was a shape, shifting, almost like a shadow, but formed. My heart hammered in my chest. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. I felt foolish, but I fought against the rising panic. "Is someone there?" The flicker disappeared, swallowed by the darkness, leaving me feeling more alone. Bella whinnied again, her ears pinned back now. She moved toward me, urging me to follow. I glanced back at the barn, my instincts screaming at me to run, but the feeling of dread was suffocating. I had to know. I took a step inside, the groan of the wood echoing in the stillness. The flicker reappeared, a glimmer of light illuminating a small object on the floor. I knelt down, squinting through the dim light. It was a tiny iron horseshoe, rusty and covered in dirt. I picked it up, inspecting it closely. There was something about it, something unique, like it belonged to a different time. Suddenly Bella stomped her hooves, the sound slicing through the silence. I looked up, startled. That was when I noticed something lurking beyond her. A dark form, half visible, had appeared from the shadows, its shape shifting and swirling. It was watching me. "Get back!" I shouted, standing up and backing away. Bella neighed angrily, her eyes wide. The form shifted again, closer now, and I was frozen in place. I could feel its presence, heavy and foreboding. Without thinking, I turned and bolted out of the barn, breathless. The woods felt foreign as I stumbled over roots and dirt, pushing through the underbrush. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of the clearing, where the moonlight broke through the trees. I waited, panting heavily, heart racing as I glanced back toward the barn. Nothing emerged from the shadows, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I had seen wasn't done with me yet. That night, sleep evaded me, filled with restless thoughts of shadows and whispers. What was happening to Bella? Where had she been going all those nights? I knew the answer lingered just beyond my reach, hidden under layers of darkness. At dawn, I stepped outside, drawn to the barn again despite everything that had happened. I needed answers. As I approached the weathered door, I felt the cold air wrap around me, heavy with anticipation. That's when I saw it. New hoofprints leading away from the barn, deeper into the woods than before. A terrible realization hit me. I had to follow no matter the cost. The forest beckoned and I couldn't ignore it. The very first step into the woods sent a shiver down my spine. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their branches weaving above me into a tangled web. Each sound was magnified, twigs snapping underfoot, leaves rustling, the distant call of a bird. My heart thudded in my chest, echoing the fear I felt creeping back. But the hoofprints called to me dark and deep in the soil. I moved cautiously, trailing the prints as they wound through the dense foliage. They seemed fresh, almost urgent. I had no clue how far I'd need to go, but the back of my mind kept reminding me that Bella was out there somewhere, and I had to find her. The further I went, the more anxiety wrapped around me. The sun struggled to peek through the thick canopy, casting strange shadows that danced at the edges of my vision. I paused, scanning the area. I thought I saw a flicker among the trees, but when I looked closely, nothing was there. Focusing back on the prints, I felt a surge of determination. I would find out what was happening, what was in the barn, what was Bella protecting. My stomach twisted at the questions, but I pressed on, moving deeper into the woods. Then I heard it, a low, unsettling sound. It was like a whisper again, but this time layered with something darker. I stopped, straining to discern the words. It was calling to me, beckoning me forward. My instincts screamed to turn back, but curiosity pushed me on. I stumbled upon a clearing, and my breath caught. In the middle of the space stood an old, gnarled tree, its roots twisted and exposed. Surrounding it were dozens of small stones arranged in a circle, worn and etched with markings I couldn't recognize. That was when I noticed Bella standing at the edge of the clearing, her eyes wide and frantic. She whinnied again, but it was different now, fearful. I called to her, my voice cracking. "Bella, come here, what's going on?" But she took a step back, her gaze fixed on the tree. I followed her eyes and froze. Darkness coiled around the trunk as if something were alive within it, something pulsing and aware. Fear clamored to take hold of me, but I couldn't look away. Suddenly the whisper heightened, turning into a chorus of voices. "Leave! Leave!" they urged, twisting around me. My grip tightened on the horseshoe I still clutched. This wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was a warning. And all at once, I knew I didn't belong here. I had to turn back and fast. But just as I felt the ground shift beneath me, a new sound erupted. A snap of branches followed by heavy footsteps approaching from behind. My stomach dropped. I wasn't alone. I wheeled around, adrenaline surging through me. There, emerging from the shadows beyond the trees, was a figure. I didn't know whether to run or confront it. But as I met its gaze, an icy chill ran through me. I had to make my choice fast. The shadows were closing in. As I contemplated my next move, that's when I noticed something glimmering at the figure's feet. It was another horseshoe, a larger, distinct one, glinting ominously in the dappled light. What had I stumbled into? The figure stepped forward, their face obscured by the dim light. My heart raced as the shiny horseshoe glimmered again, almost mocking me. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. My voice echoed in the clearing, swallowed by the trees. They didn't answer immediately. Instead, they bent down, picking up the horseshoe. I felt my pulse quicken. What was the significance of that horseshoe? Why were they here? Anxiety clawed at my insides, but I couldn't back down now. "I'm looking for Bella," I called, desperation creeping into my tone. Looking past the figure, I tried to catch a glimpse of my horse, but she had moved away further into the trees, still watching, still uncertain. "Leave this place," the figure finally spoke. Their voice was gravelly and low. It sent chills down my spine. I couldn't tell if it was a warning or an order. "It's not safe." "Not safe?" I echoed, incredulous. My mind raced with questions. "What do you mean, what's happening here?" The figure shifted. Their eyes glinted like shards of ice. "You don't know what you're dealing with. That tree, it's a part of something ancient. It calls to those who dare approach." I felt lightheaded. "What does it want?" My throat felt dry, and I took a faltering step backward, still glancing for Bella. The figure hesitated, and I caught sight of a faint scar running down their cheek. "Protection," they said gravely. "But it comes at a price." A sharp crack echoed through the woods, not far from where Bella had gone. I stiffened, adrenaline flooding my body. "What was that?" I asked, panic rising. "They're coming," the figure warned, urgency coursing through their voice now. I didn't want to think about what they meant. I was losing time. "Bella!" I cried, taking several steps toward the trees where I had last seen her. The air now felt charged, heavy with the promise of something dreadfully wrong. I could see the outlines of more figures moving just beyond the trunks, emerging like specters just out of reach. I picked up my pace. "Bella!" I shouted again, but there was no response. Turning back to the figure, I noticed their face was lined with worry. "You have to go. Now." I didn't need persuading. I turned to run, but before I could take 2 strides, a deep, resonant voice boomed, "Stop." I skidded to a halt, my breath trapped in my throat. Whatever was waiting in the shadows was closer now. I felt it in my bones. I glanced back at the figure, their expression sharp with fear, and then I faced the approaching darkness. In that moment, I realized I was no longer just searching for Bella. I was now a part of something far larger and more terrifying than I could have imagined. And the shadows were closing in. The darkness shifted. Figures loomed just beyond the tree line, their forms indistinct but threatening. I strained my eyes, but nothing became clearer. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice trembling. The figure with the horseshoe was still near me. "You don't have time for that," they said, urgency sharpening their tone. "Trust me, run." I didn't want to leave without Bella. "But my horse—" "Forget the horse. She can take care of herself," they interrupted, glancing nervously toward the shadows. "You have to move now." With a jolt of fear, I turned away from the figure. I sprinted toward where I hoped Bella was hiding, heart pounding. I whistled loudly, my eyes darting through the shadowy woods. "Bella!" I shouted again, but all I got in return was a heavy silence. Suddenly, I heard a rustling in the underbrush. My breath caught. I froze, straining to see what was coming through the trees. Then I saw her. Bella emerged, but something was off. Her eyes were wide, almost wild, and her nostrils flared as if she could sense danger. She didn't approach me, but stood at the edge of the clearing, frozen in place. "What's wrong, girl?" I called softly, trying to coax her closer. But instead she snorted loudly and turned to bolt deeper into the woods. "No, Bella. Come back," I screamed, panic rising. I darted after her, adrenaline surging through my veins. As I ran, the ground felt unstable beneath me. A sudden warmth enveloped the air, as if a latent energy had awakened. I stumbled, nearly losing my footing. Just ahead, I could see Bella finally stopping in front of an enormous tree, its gnarled roots twisting like serpents. "Bella!" I shouted again, but my voice was drowned out. Another crack echoed through the woods, followed by a whispering wind that chilled me to the bone, though the air was thick with heat. I reached the tree and placed my hand on its rough bark. Immediately a jolt ran through my arm like static electricity. I pulled back, suddenly aware of how wrong everything was. "What is happening?" I muttered breathlessly, glancing around. Then I saw them. The figures from earlier were closer now, their eyes reflecting the light like beasts lurking in the dark. "You should not have come here," one of them shouted, their voice merging with the rustle of leaves and the whispers in the air. I stepped back, heart thudding. "I'm just looking for my horse. What do you want from me?" They moved closer, their silhouettes shifting, almost blending into the trees. "It's not your horse we're after," another voice hissed, sending shivers down my spine. "It's your connection to the tree." Suddenly, the world around me dimmed, the sky covered with thick clouds as if night had fallen in an instant. The air grew heavy, and I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet. That's when I saw it. Glowing faintly at the foot of the tree was a small object, half buried in leaves. A strange pull drew me closer, a mix of fear and curiosity. I knelt to investigate, and as I reached for it, a voice whispered directly into my ear, "You shouldn't touch that." I froze. The darkness deepened, and I realized I might not escape this time. I stood frozen, heart racing. The voice echoed in my mind, mixing with the sound of my shallow breathing. I wanted to flee, but my fingers itched to brush against whatever lay hidden beneath the leaves. The shadows around me twisted, and the figures watched, their eyes glinting with a knowing glimmer. "What do you mean I shouldn't touch it?" I whispered, glancing back at the figures. They had shifted even closer now, their forms more pronounced, like dark statues with a malevolent intent. They were watching me, waiting. I took a breath, forcing myself to focus. I couldn't let fear take over, but the glowing object called to me like a beacon in the dark. It might hold answers, or perhaps something worse. I was stuck between instinct and curiosity. A low growl broke the tension, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the ground. Bella snorted again, her body tense, ready to bolt once more. "Stay, girl," I urged, though my voice quivered. With each pulse of light from the object, I felt a strange warmth spreading through the air. I hesitated, my instincts screaming to run, yet I needed to know if there was a way to protect myself, to make sense of this chaos. Gathering my courage, I bent lower, brushing the leaves aside. The object was a small, intricately carved stone, glowing softly with colors that seemed to shift as I moved. There were symbols on its surface that felt familiar, like echoes of stories I'd heard from my grandmother. Stories about magic, about the forest protecting something valuable. "Do not touch it!" A voice snapped from the darkness, almost causing me to leap back. The figure with the horseshoe stepped forward, shadows spilling over their face. "You're not ready to harness what it holds." "Then help me. What does it mean?" I pleaded, hoping for clarity. The ground felt like it was vibrating beneath me, urging me to act. The forest felt alive, and the air crackled around us. I can't," the figure stammered. "But if you take it, it could endanger everything you care about. The forces at play are far beyond you." Another crack of thunder rumbled, shaking the air. The figures shifted closer, now appearing as forms of swirling shadow and distorted light. I was surrounded, and panic clawed at my throat. One of the figures lunged forward, a hand outstretched. "That stone is a key. It unlocks things best left alone." Then a memory flickered in the back of my mind, a warning, a promise, like a forgotten bedtime story resurfacing in the corners of my thoughts. I jolted upright. Whatever this was connected to went deeper than I realized. What had the figures meant by forces at play? What lay behind the stone? Suddenly the warmth began to tingle in my fingertips, and before I could think I reached out and took hold of the stone. The moment I did, the ground beneath me collapsed, and darkness engulfed my vision. I had triggered something much larger than I could understand. Graham's voice echoed in my thoughts, frantic and clear. "You shouldn't have come here." Then everything went black. I gasped as I came back to consciousness, the world flooding my senses. Instead of the crushing dark, I was sprawled on a cold, damp surface that felt like grass. I blinked up at a sky swirling with clouds, the occasional flicker of lightning illuminating my surroundings in fleeting bursts. "Bella!" My voice cracked as I turned my head, frantically searching for my horse. Panic rose as I spotted her a few feet away, nervously pawing the ground, her body taut. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. I realized we were no longer in the clearing. Everything was different. Twisted trees loomed above, and the air hummed with an electric tension. I stood up, my legs shaky, and took stock of my surroundings. The forest was denser here, shadows creeping along the bark and foliage. The noise of the figures had vanished, but the weight of their presence hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. "What happened?" I murmured to myself. "The stone." I looked down to see it still clutched in my hand, glowing softly, almost pulsing. I felt the warmth radiate, filling me with uncertainty. What power did it hold? I hesitated, recalling the warning swirling around in my mind. That's when I noticed an uneasy silence, deeper than before, like the calm before a hurricane. A rustle came from the underbrush nearby, drawing my attention. I turned, heart pounding as I braced for what might emerge. "Hello?" I called, trying to sound brave, but my voice trembled. The undergrowth parted, and a sleek, dark figure stepped forward. It was another horse, but unlike Bella, this one radiated an otherworldly feel. Its coat shimmered, almost like it was soaked in moonlight, and its eyes blazed with intelligence. It stared directly at me, and I felt something in my chest pull tighter. "Seek the path," it seemed to whisper, though its mouth didn't move. My blood ran cold, confusion taking root in my mind. I stumbled back, glancing around for an escape. But as I did, the forest shifted. Branches twisted, forming an archway to a narrow path that hadn't been there a moment ago. The glowing stone sparked in my grasp, as if urging me to embrace the unknown. The air crackled with energy, and I felt a pull toward the path. "Wait!" I called out to the spectral horse, but it remained still, watching me closely. "What am I supposed to do?" As if answering my question, the spectral horse whinnied, and a jolt surged through me as shadows danced beneath its hooves. "Don't let them find you," it seemed to say, a deep urgency in its gaze. Before I could process this, the underbrush rustled again. From the depths of the trees, figures emerged, not the same but familiar. Their shadows flickered under the dying light, a jagged aura of hostility surrounding them. Time slowed as I realized I was trapped. The stone felt heavier in my grip, almost alive, electrifying my hand. I ordered my limbs to move, but panic rooted me to the ground. Then I remembered the spectral horse's warning. It had told me to seek the path. Suddenly, I knew. I had to move, or I would lose everything. The choice was clear: face the figures or trust whatever lay ahead. I bolted toward the narrow path, the stone guiding my way through the chaos behind me. But as I ran, I caught a glimpse of the figures, their eyes burning with malice. This was only the beginning. I sprinted down the narrow path, the shadows behind me creeping closer. The forest around me twisted and turned, branches clawing at my clothes, as if angry that I dared to run away. The glowing stone pulsed in my hand, its warmth spreading through my fingers, almost like it was encouraging me to keep going. Glancing back, I saw the figures breaking through the underbrush, their forms indistinct, shrouded in darkness. One of them raised an arm, and I felt a sudden chill that made my breath catch. I didn't know who they were or what they wanted, but that didn't matter. All that mattered was getting away. The path began to wind sharply, and I stumbled, nearly losing my footing. My heart thudded in my chest as I caught myself pushing off the ground to run harder. The trees loomed above, and a low whisper flitted through the air. "Turn back." It seemed to murmur, haunting and hollow. I shook my head, refusing to heed the voice. In that moment, the path forked, with one direction plunging into thick brush, while the other opened to a clearing just ahead. Without pausing, I raced toward the clearing, hoping for an escape. As I broke free from the dense trees, I stumbled into an open area. The moon hung low, casting a silver light that illuminated an ancient stone circle at the clearing's center. My breath came in ragged gasps. It felt eerily familiar, like a piece of a dream I couldn't quite remember. Then I noticed, beyond the stone circle, a figure stood watching me. At first I thought it was just my mind playing tricks, but as I approached, I saw it was a woman draped in a flowing cloak that seemed to merge with the shadows. Her hair was wild, and her eyes glowed like embers. "Why do you seek the path?" she asked, her voice a barely audible whisper. I froze. My instincts screamed to run, but I was caught in her gaze. "I don't know," I stammered. "I just need to get away from them." She gestured toward the trees where I'd come from. "They seek the stone. Do not let them take it." "What stone?" I glanced down at my hand, where the glowing stone pulsed brighter than ever. "What is this? Why is it so important?" "You hold a fragment of power, a key to another realm," she said, stepping closer. "But it is dangerous. If they catch you, everything will be lost." A shadow brushed at the edge of the clearing, my anxiety returning with a vengeance. "What do I do?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "Use it wisely," she replied, the weight of her words hanging heavy between us. "And make your choice before the shadows swallow you." Suddenly, movement caught my eye, snapping me back to reality. The figures, led by the one with the raised arm, surged into the clearing, eyes alight with hunger. My pulse quickened as they advanced, the woman's warning echoing in my mind. Then everything broke apart. The stone in my hand burned hot, and I felt the energy coursing through me. I didn't understand what it meant, but I couldn't stand still any longer. The path diverged again, one leading deeper into the unknown, and the other toward the figures. I felt an urgency surge within me. This was just the beginning, but I had to choose now. I took a step back, my instincts screaming at me to flee. The figures were advancing, and the woman beside me stood her ground. I felt torn, the urge to run battling with an overwhelming curiosity about what was unfolding. The stone felt almost alive in my palm, pulsating as if it wanted me to make a choice. "Trust your instincts," the woman whispered, her voice a thread in the rising tension. I nodded, but I didn't know what trust meant in this moment. The leading figure broke free from the pack and stepped into the moonlight, revealing a twisted smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Hand over the stone," he demanded, his voice echoing in the stillness. "You don't know what you're messing with." I tightened my grip on the stone, half expecting it to burn right through my skin. "I won't give it to you," I shouted, surprising myself with my sudden bravado. "Foolish child." His eyes glinted maliciously. "Do you think you can escape the shadows? You don't belong here." Before I could reply, the woman beside me raised her arms. "You will not take her," she shouted. The air shimmered around her, and for a moment I thought I saw the outline of something ancient and powerful. My heart raced. I had a fleeting thought about running again, but the clearing felt magnetic. I turned, ready to bolt. But the path felt different now. Both routes twisted ominously under the moonlight, a choice that could lead to my capture or my escape. Then I noticed a figure among the shadows creeping downward. As it stepped forward, it wasn't one of the figures from the trees. It was another woman, with hair like the wind and eyes that sparkled with clarity. "Don't be afraid," she said softly, her voice soothing. "I can help you." I looked back at the encroaching figures. Panic bubbled within me. "Who are you?" "Another guardian," she replied simply. "But I'm not here to fight, I protect the stone." She pointed at the swirling energy in my hand. "You must find its twin. Only then can you unlock its true potential." My mind raced. A twin. Where do I find it? "Past the stone circle," she said, gesturing toward the remnants of ruins that jutted from the earth like old teeth. "But you must be quick. Time is against you." Before I could question her further, an angry shout erupted behind me. The lead figure lunged forward, his arms outstretched. I felt the power of the stone flare hotter in my palm. I had no time. With a glance at the woman, I made my decision. I dashed past the stone circle, the shadows hot on my tail. I could hear the figures behind, their footsteps pounding against the earth like a war drum. Then I saw it, a glimmer glowing beneath a shattered piece of stone. That was it. I lunged forward, reaching toward the light just as I heard a dark vow from behind. "You won't escape." As I grasped the shimmering object, everything fractured into blinding light. I gasped, my world collapsing into a bright void before reshaping itself around me. I found myself sprawled on the ground, my body ringing with a strange energy. I bolted upright, completely disoriented, my senses bombarded by the familiarity of my old barn. The wooden structure loomed above, sun filtering through the worn slats, casting playful shadows across my feet. "Bella," I called out, my voice steadying my racing heart. I quickly pushed myself to my feet and scanned the space. She was standing outside, calm but alert, as if she'd been waiting. My throat tightened as I rushed forward and threw my arms around her neck, burying my face in her mane. The sense of safety seeped into my bones, but uncertainty coiled around my thoughts like a stubborn vine. The stone was gone, yet I still felt its lingering warmth, a whisper of ancient power thrumming in my chest. What had happened? I remembered running, the shadows pursuing me, but it all felt surreal, a dream that straddled the line between reality and imagination. The barn felt too quiet, resonating with the memories of my strange journey. Colors swirled in my mind, the swirling light, the voices in the woods. I could hardly comprehend what I'd experienced, but I knew something fundamental had shifted in me. I stepped outside, breathing in the fresh air, filled with the scent of hay and damp earth. Days passed and life returned to a semblance of normal. Dad's health improved, and I found comfort in the rhythm of farm life. Bella's gentle whinnies stirred me awake each morning, and together we wandered the familiar pastures, though an involuntary unease lingered within me. I often found myself staring into the woods, half expecting to see those shadowy figures or hear the lingering whispers carried by the wind. Sometimes in quiet moments, I'd catch myself running my fingers over the memory of the stone. What had it unlocked? What awaited me in that realm of shadows? One evening I stood at the edge of the barn, gazing toward the tree line, the sunset painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. It was beautiful but haunting, deep questions swirling in my mind. Would I ever return to that world? Did I leave something behind? I shook my head, unwilling to chase those thoughts that threatened to consume me. Then, on a whim, I followed Bella back toward the path leading into the woods. Each hoof step echoed against my heart, a blend of trepidation and longing. As I reached the direction of the long-forgotten barn, I felt it, the weight of unseen eyes. The air thickened around me, and an ancient energy crackled, reminding me of what I had faced. I paused, glancing back over my shoulder. Behind me, the open fields felt like a comforting blanket. I could step back into the warmth of familiarity, or I could venture forward, into the unknown. Just then, I noticed a glimmer between the trees. It flickered once, teasing the corners of my mind. "Bella," I whispered, realizing a choice loomed ahead. The memory of the glowing stone ebbed and flowed within me, its significance now a bittersweet echo. I still think about that day sometimes. What I experienced out there, whether it was real or a trick of the light, will stay with me always. I could never quite escape the feeling that something was still waiting in those woods, something ancient, longing for a connection that might never come back to me. For now I'd settled into a different life, but the shadows remained, always just beyond reach.